Welcome back to the Daily Crypto Deep Dive. Today's deep dive exists because of a listener question, and it's a good one. We've already done the definitions, we've already done the surface-level explanations, so today we're going deeper, but we're doing it properly. No theory for theory's sake, no drifting off into macro waffle. We're sticking to the script, using real numbers, and constantly grounding this in how people actually use crypto in the real world. Because stablecoins are one of the most misunderstood parts of crypto. Not because they're complicated, but because people assume they're boring. And in reality, they're one of the most powerful pieces of infrastructure in the entire space. Let's start with the role stablecoins play, not what they are on paper, but what they do in practice. Stablecoins exist because crypto needed a digital version of cash that never leaves the system. Before stablecoins became widespread, every time someone sold Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any other crypto, they had to go back into the banking system. That meant delays, fees, withdrawal limits, banking hours, and sometimes outright friction or blocks. Stablecoins solved that problem by acting as crypto-native cash. When you sell Bitcoin into a stablecoin, you are effectively stepping out of volatility without stepping out of crypto. That one function alone explains why stablecoins exploded in usage. The idea of stablecoins didn't come from institutions or regulators. It came from traders who were sick of being at the mercy of banks. In the early days of crypto, if you wanted to lock in profits or reduce risk, you had no choice but to send money back to your bank. That meant delays, fees, and sometimes accounts getting frozen simply because banks didn't understand crypto. The original idea behind stablecoins was brutally simple. Create something that behaves like a dollar, but lives entirely on a blockchain. No banking hours, no approvals, no waiting. Early versions were clunky and untrusted, but the demand was obvious. Traders wanted a way to step out of volatility without stepping out of crypto. Tether was one of the first to take that idea seriously and turn it into something that worked at scale. It wasn't built by crypto idealists trying to reinvent money. It was built by people who understood trading, liquidity, and market structure. Their goal wasn't philosophical, it was practical. Give traders a digital dollar they could move instantly between exchanges. Circle, which later launched USDC, came at the problem from a different angle. They wanted a stablecoin that could integrate cleanly with the existing financial system, with clearer reserves and regulatory alignment. These two approaches, speed and pragmatism versus transparency and compliance, shaped the stablecoin landscape we see today, and they explain why different stablecoins dominate in different parts of the world. While stablecoins are often talked about as neutral tools, the companies behind them are very much controlled by people, boards, and executives who make real decisions every day. Tether is operated by a small private group connected to the same ownership structure behind the Bitfinex exchange, meaning strategic decisions around issuance, redemptions, and reserve management ultimately sit with a tight internal leadership team rather than a public board. Circle, on the other hand, is a US-based company with venture backing, corporate governance, and regulatory oversight, meaning decisions are filtered through executives, compliance teams, and regulators. In both cases, this means stablecoins are not governed by code alone. Human judgment plays a central role, from how reserves are invested to how the company responds during market stress. That's an important distinction, because when billions of dollars are involved, discretion matters just as much as technology. Now here's where things get interesting. Because stablecoins aren't just neutral tools. They are issued by companies, and those companies run them as businesses. Now before we move on, we are going to pause here for a quick word from our sponsors. Stay with us.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Now let's talk about who actually controls the big stablecoins, because names matter here. The largest stablecoin in the world is USDT, issued by Tether. It has a circulating supply north of $190 billion. That means at any given time, Tether is effectively holding and managing tens of billions of dollars on behalf of users. USDC is the second major one, issued by Circle. Its supply fluctuates more, often between $25 and $40 billion, depending on market conditions. Then you've got decentralized stablecoins like DAI, which work differently. But even there, control still exists. It's just distributed through governance rather than a single company. Now here's the first thing that needs to be crystal clear. Stablecoins are not mined, they are minted. That means someone decides when new ones are created and when they are destroyed. For USDT and USDC, that decision sits with the issuer. Here's how it works in practice. If a large institution wants $1 billion worth of USDC, they don't just click a button. They send 1 billion real US dollars to Circle. Circle receives the dollars, mints 1 billion USDC tokens, and sends them out. When those tokens are redeemed, the process reverses. Tokens are destroyed, dollars are sent back. So who controls supply? The issuer does. That doesn't automatically make stablecoins bad, but it does mean they are not decentralized in the same way Bitcoin is. Bitcoin's supply schedule is fixed and cannot be changed. Stablecoin supply expands and contracts based on demand, under rules set by the issuer. At this point, a lot of people will be thinking, hold on, if all of these stablecoins are supposed to be worth $1, why should I use one over another at all? Why use Tether instead of USDC, or any of the newer stablecoins that claim to be safer or more decentralized? And the honest answer is that most people don't choose a stablecoin because it's philosophically better. They choose it because of where they're using it. Tether dominates global trading because it has the deepest liquidity and the widest acceptance across exchanges, especially outside the US. USDC is often preferred by institutions and regulated platforms because it fits more cleanly within US financial rules. Other stablecoins might offer decentralization or yield incentives, but they often trade liquidity and convenience for those features. In practice, the choice usually comes down to one question. Where can I move this money fastest, cheapest, and with the least friction for what I want to do next? Now let's talk about the part people rarely think about: how stablecoin issuers actually make money. This is where we need real figures, because otherwise it sounds abstract. When Circle or Tether receive user dollars, those dollars don't just sit in a vault doing nothing. They are invested conservatively, primarily in short-term US government debt like Treasury bills. Here's why that matters. If you are holding $40 billion in US Treasury bills, and those bills yield, say, 4 to 5%, you are generating billions of dollars per year in interest. Tether has publicly reported profits in excess of $6 billion in a single year. That profit did not come from trading fees or speculation. It came from holding user funds and earning interest on them. So here's the simple reality. Users get price stability. Issuers get yield. By default, users do not receive that yield. This leads directly into the next question people ask. Do users get paid for holding stablecoins? The honest answer is no, not automatically. If you hold USDT or USDC in a wallet, you earn nothing. The issuer keeps the interest. Stablecoins are not savings accounts by default. Users only earn money on stablecoins when they actively lend them out or deposit them into a platform that shares some of that yield. This can happen in a few ways. You might deposit stablecoins into a centralized platform like Nexo. You might lend them through a decentralized protocol. You might provide liquidity in a stablecoin pool. But here's the crucial point that needs to be made clearly. Stablecoin yield does not come from price appreciation. It comes from borrowers. Someone, somewhere, is paying to use that stablecoin. That might be a trader using leverage. It might be a market maker providing liquidity. It might be an institution settling trades. That's why stablecoin yield rises and falls with market activity. When trading is hot, demand to borrow stablecoins increases, and yields rise. When markets slow down, yields compress or disappear. This is also why high stablecoin yields should always raise questions. If someone is offering 10 or 12% on a dollar-pegged asset, you need to understand where that return is coming from and what risks are involved. Now let's deal with another big question. Do stablecoins threaten other cryptocurrencies? The short answer is no, not in the way people often suggest. Stablecoins do not replace Bitcoin. They do not replace Ethereum. They do not compete as stores of value or speculative assets. What they do is change behavior. Before stablecoins, if Bitcoin went up and you sold, you left the market entirely. You went back to fiat. That took time and effort. Now you sell into a stablecoin and stay inside crypto. That capital can re-enter instantly. This increases liquidity, it increases trading, it keeps capital circulating rather than exiting. Now let's talk about how other cryptocurrencies actually depend on stablecoins, because this is where their importance becomes obvious. Most crypto trading pairs are denominated in stablecoins. Most decentralized finance protocols rely on stablecoins as base liquidity. Lending markets, decentralized exchanges, derivatives platforms, all of them need stable units of account to function. Without stablecoins, crypto markets would be far more volatile, far less liquid, and far harder to use. So the question we get a lot is, why, when you sell Bitcoin, don't you just convert it to dollars and send it straight to your bank? Why bother with stablecoins at all, especially if you get charged twice for transactions? The answer comes down to friction, control, and optionality. You absolutely can sell Bitcoin directly into pounds on platforms like Nexo, but when you do that, you are stepping back into the traditional financial system. Here's what happens behind the scenes. When you sell Bitcoin into dollars, the platform has to convert crypto into fiat liquidity, handle foreign exchange, comply with banking rules, and move money across banking rails. That introduces wider spreads, withdrawal fees, processing delays, and sometimes limits or checks. You're paying for convenience and compliance. When you sell Bitcoin into a stablecoin instead, everything stays inside crypto. Settlement is instant. There are no banking hours. There is no FX conversion. You retain full optionality. And that optionality is key. If you sell Bitcoin into pounds, you are out. You've exited the market. If prices move again, you have to go back through the entire process. If you sell Bitcoin into a stablecoin, you can re-enter the market in seconds. You can deploy that capital into another asset, lend it out, or simply wait. This is why traders, institutions, and even long-term holders often prefer stablecoins as an intermediate step, even if it means paying small transaction fees. You're not paying twice for nothing. You're paying for speed, flexibility, and control. Now let's address the final piece: risk. Stablecoins are not risk-free. They are exposed to issuer risk, regulatory risk, and counterparty risk. Funds can be frozen, addresses can be blacklisted, rules can change. At the same time, stablecoins have survived multiple stress tests, market crashes, and extreme volatility. They've proven far more resilient than many expected. The truth sits in the middle. Stablecoins are not evil. They are not saviors. They are infrastructure. They quietly move value. They quietly generate profits for issuers. They quietly keep crypto markets functioning. If you understand stablecoins, you understand how money actually flows through crypto. If you don't, you're missing a critical piece of the puzzle. That's why this episode matters. Not because stablecoins are exciting, but because they explain why crypto works the way it does. If you found this useful, drop a comment. If there's another topic you want broken down this way, properly, with examples and real figures, let us know. And as always, we'll see you at the top.